If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have told you I had it all. A stable job, a nice house in suburbs, a loyal dog named Max, and most importantly, a beautiful, intelligent, and seemingly loving wife named Emily. We had been married for 6 years, and while every couple has their ups and downs, I truly believe we were solid. I thought we were a team. Emily and I met in college. She was studying psychology, and I was in business. Our first conversation happened in a crowded coffee shop during finals week. I remember she laughed at my terrible joke, and just like that, I was hooked. We clicked fast, same sense of humor, shared dreams of traveling, starting a family, and building something meaningful together. Fast forward nearly a decade, and here we were, married, both with good careers, talking about kids, and planning our next vacation to Europe. On paper, we looked like the couple people envied. We hosted dinner parties, took cute pictures on holidays, and had matching mugs that said King and Queen. Cringe, I know, but I was proud to show the world how happy we were. At least, I thought we were. The signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. It started small. She began coming home later than usual, always blaming traffic or last-minute meetings. She stopped asking me how my day was. When I hugged her, I could feel her body stiffen slightly, like she was distracted or distant. But I brushed it off. I told myself we were just in a busy phase, that stress was getting the better of both of us. I wanted to believe that. We had always been open with each other, or so I believed. We had this unspoken rule, no secrets. She had all my passwords. I had hers. Our phones were never locked away, and we always shared locations in case of emergencies. But over time, I noticed little changes. She started keeping her phone face down, silenced even when she was home. She'd take calls in another room, always whispering, saying it was work-related. At night, she turned away from me in bed more often. Some nights, she claimed she was too tired. Other nights, she said she had a headache. Once or twice, she even fell asleep on the couch, watching Netflix. Each time, I tried not to make a big deal out of it. I didn't want to be the insecure, controlling husband. I wanted to be understanding, supportive, trusting. But trust, I've learned, is only as strong as the person you give it to. Looking back, I think I knew, deep down, that something was wrong. But love makes you blind. Or maybe it just makes you too afraid to face the truth. It wasn't until one evening, when I noticed her smiling at her phone in the kitchen, that the first real crack appeared in my illusion. She didn't notice me watching her from the hallway. That smile, it wasn't one she gave me anymore. It wasn't casual or friendly. It was something else, something intimate. She quickly tucked her phone away when I walked in. I asked who she was texting. She paused, just for a second, but that second was long enough. "Oh, just Sarah from work," she said, too casually. That was the moment I felt the first real shift in my gut. And that was the night I realized maybe I didn't know my wife at all. After that night in the kitchen, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That smile she gave her phone haunted me. It wasn't a smile meant for a friend. It was softer, more intimate. The kind of smile someone gives when they're falling for someone. And the worst part? She hadn't smiled at me like that in months. I tried to tell myself I was overthinking it, that maybe I was just tired, stressed, or even jealous for no reason. But once a seed of doubt is planted, it grows, quietly, relentlessly. Suddenly, I started noticing all the little things I used to ignore. Emily's phone was now permanently on silent. She kept it with her everywhere, even when she went to the bathroom or took a shower. That wasn't like her. She used to leave it lying around the house without a second thought. Now, it was glued to her like a second skin. Then there were the work emergencies. Before, she'd be home by 6:30 every night. Now it was 8 o'clock, sometimes later. Always some excuse. A client meeting ran long. The system crashed. Someone called in sick, and she had to cover. She was always just doing her job. One night, I offered to pick her up from work when her car was in the shop. She sounded surprised, almost panicked, and quickly told me not to worry, that she'd just get a ride share instead. Said she didn't want me to go out of my way. That was the first time I truly felt like she was hiding something. I started watching her more closely, the way she checked her phone and smiled at it, then quickly looked away when I entered the room, the way she always seemed to have new lingerie, even though we hadn't been intimate in weeks, the way she looked distant during dinner, like she was physically present but mentally elsewhere. It wasn't just the phone. It was the way she avoided eye contact, the way her hugs felt obligatory, the way she never said, "I love you," unless I said it first, and even then it sounded hollow. I didn't want to confront her without proof. I'd seen too many stories of people accusing their partners and being made to feel like the crazy one. Gaslighting was real, and Emily was smart enough to turn the tables if she wanted to. So I kept quiet for now. But I started documenting everything: dates, times, excuses, changes in her routine. I even took screenshots of suspicious messages when she left her laptop open one night. Nothing explicit, but enough vague flirty replies from someone named A to raise red flags. I confided in my best friend, Liam. He was the only one I trusted completely. When I told him what I'd noticed, he didn't tell me I was being paranoid. He looked me in the eye and said, "You need to find out the truth, man, no matter how much it hurts." And he was right. It wasn't just about catching her. It was about confirming whether the person I shared a life, a bed, and a future with was lying to me every single day. I wasn't just suspicious anymore. I was on edge, on alert. I started noticing things that, once seen, couldn't be unseen. The woman I had loved and trusted for years was becoming a stranger, and I knew, deep down, that whatever I was about to discover, it would change everything. I just didn't realize how far it had already gone. The doubt had turned into a gnawing ache I couldn't escape. Every time Emily laughed quietly at her phone or took a sudden call behind a closed door, my heart sank a little more. But I wasn't ready to confront her, not yet. I needed proof, something undeniable. I spent the next few days researching how to catch a cheating spouse without alerting them. I debated going to a private investigator, but that felt like giving up control. Besides, I wanted to see it with my own eyes. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. I bought a small hidden camera online, one of those compact devices disguised as a smoke detector. It was expensive, but I didn't care. The truth was worth every penny. I installed it in our bedroom, carefully positioning it so it covered the entrance and part of the living room where Emily often took her private calls. I also set up a discreet GPS tracker on her car, just to know where she was going when she said she was working late. Even then, I wrestled with myself. Was I crossing a line? Was I invading her privacy? But the nagging questions wouldn't stop. I had to know. For 2 long nights, I stared at my phone, waiting for the camera to send me footage. Nothing. Just the usual mundane shots of the empty living room and the dog sleeping on the couch. Then, on the 3rd night it happened, Emily came home later than usual. I was already in bed, pretending to be asleep. I heard the front door click softly at 11:15 p.m., footsteps creeping down the hallway. The camera was rolling. She whispered into her phone, her voice trembling slightly. "Are you sure this is safe? I don't want to get caught." My heart pounded. A man's voice answered softly. "Relax, Emily. We'll be careful. No one will know." I clenched my fists. They met in the living room. The man was someone I'd never seen before. They hugged, then kissed, slow, deliberate, and unmistakable. Emily's eyes shone with something I hadn't seen in years: desire. Not for me. The video went on for almost 15 minutes. They talked quietly, laughed softly, and eventually parted ways, her sneaking out through the back door. I sat frozen in bed, watching the screen in disbelief. The woman I'd trusted, loved, and built a life was betraying me in my own home. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, the weight of betrayal crushing me, anger mixed with sadness. How long had this been going on? Who was this man? What did it mean for us? The next morning, Emily acted as if nothing had happened. She kissed me goodbye, said she loved me, and left for work. Meanwhile, I felt like my whole world had collapsed. I kept the video hidden on my phone, backing it up multiple times. I didn't know what to do yet. Confrontation felt too raw, too risky. I wasn't sure if I wanted to save our marriage or destroy it. All I knew was that I had the proof now, the undeniable truth. Over the next few days, I watched the footage again and again. Each viewing chipped away at the man I used to be, the forgiving, trusting husband. In his place was someone colder, more determined. Someone who wasn't going to be made a fool. That's when I started planning. Revenge wasn't about violence or cruelty, at least not at first. It was about reclaiming control, about making sure Emily knew that her actions had consequences. That betrayal wasn't a free pass. I began gathering more evidence. Screenshots of secret messages, social media interactions, even bank statements showing money transfers that didn't add up. I reached out discreetly to people she was spending time with, trying to piece together the bigger picture. The hardest part was pretending everything was normal, smiling at her, making small talk, sharing dinners, all while my mind raced with plans that would change everything. The truth had landed like a hammer blow. Emily's betrayal was real, raw, and undeniable, but I wasn't ready to crumble. If anything, that moment ignited something inside me, a fierce determination to take back control and ensure she would never forget the price of her deception. Revenge, I decided, wouldn't be about cruelty or violence. I wasn't interested in tearing her down for the sake of hurting her. No, this was about justice, the kind that leaves scars deeper than any fight could. I started by setting boundaries. I changed every password to our shared accounts, email, banking, streaming services, and quietly transferred control to myself. If she thought she could sneak around with my money, she was wrong. I spoke with a lawyer just to understand my rights and what steps I could take legally to protect myself and our assets. Divorce was on the horizon, but I wasn't rushing it. I wanted to prepare every move carefully. Next, I doubled down on gathering evidence. I went through our devices, phones, laptops, tablets, downloading and backing up every suspicious message, email, and photo. I knew that cold, hard proof was my strongest weapon. It would protect me in court, and if I ever needed leverage, I would have it all documented. The GPS tracker on her car became my silent partner. I followed her movements after work and on weekends, quietly noting the places she visited. Some were familiar, work meetings, grocery stores, but others were suspiciously out of place. A hotel on the edge of town, a quiet cafe in the next city, a friend's house she never mentioned before. One afternoon, I took a risk. I called the woman I'd seen in the video with Emily. Her name was Rachel. I found her social media profiles and reached out, posing as a concerned mutual friend. It wasn't easy, but after a few messages, she admitted to knowing about the affair. She didn't want to be involved anymore and was worried about how it would all end. That conversation gave me more ammunition. I learned the affair had been going on for months, longer than I suspected, and that Emily had been lying to everyone around us. Friends, family, even her own sister were kept in the dark. I could feel the anger simmering beneath my skin, but I held it back. Patience was key. I needed to make sure everything was perfectly in place before I acted. At the same time, I began subtly shifting our social circles. I discreetly told a few close friends about what was happening, not to gossip, but to prepare them for what would come. Their support was invaluable, and I wanted to make sure Emily wouldn't be able to spin her version of events without pushback. The idea of public exposure began to take shape in my mind. I wasn't going to humiliate her on social media or broadcast her secrets to the world. No, I wanted something more impactful, more personal. I thought about the upcoming family reunion, an event where both sides of our families gathered, usually filled with laughter, stories, and celebration. It was a perfect stage. Everyone would be there, friends, relatives, even Emily's parents, who had always adored me. I pictured the moment I played the video, the room falling silent as they watched the undeniable proof of her betrayal. The shock, the disappointment, the betrayal they would feel, not just for me, but for themselves. It would be a reckoning. But I didn't stop there. I prepared legal documents quietly, divorce papers, a financial settlement plan that would ensure I didn't lose everything. Emily had been careless with money, and I suspected she'd try to take advantage of our shared assets. I wasn't going to let her walk away with more than she deserved. And I made one last move. I secured a new place to live, close enough to the city but far enough to start fresh. I told a few close friends and family about my plan to move out soon. It was important to show her I was serious, that the life we had built together was over. Every step I took was calculated. Every word I spoke was measured. I didn't want to give her the chance to manipulate or gaslight me once the truth came out. The tension was unbearable, but I told myself it was worth it, because this wasn't just about catching her cheating or exposing her lies. It was about reclaiming my dignity. It was about sending a message. It was about winning back my life. And I was ready. The day of the family reunion arrived, and with it, a storm of emotions I hadn't expected to feel all at once. Anxiety, anger, sadness, but also a quiet sense of determination. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for, planning for, and dreading in equal measure. The venue was a rented hall in a local community center, filled with familiar faces. Laughter and chatter bounced off the walls as cousins hugged, aunts fussed over food, and kids ran around playing tag. Emily arrived looking radiant, the same woman I once adored. Seeing her surrounded by smiles and hugs made the betrayal sting even deeper. I had rehearsed what I was going to say 1,000 times in my head, but standing there, holding my phone in my pocket with the damning video, ready to play, my hands trembled. My closest friends and family weren't on it. My brother gave me a reassuring nod from across the room, and Liam whispered, "You've got this." I cleared my throat and asked for everyone's attention. The room quieted down, curious eyes turning toward me. "There's something I need to share," I began, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. "It's not easy, but I believe honesty is the only way forward." I took a deep breath, then hit play. The video filled the big screen someone had set up for slides and photos. The room fell silent as everyone watched Emily with the other man, their secret moments exposed in vivid detail. I saw faces change in confusion to shock, then anger. Some people gasped aloud, others whispered. Emily's smile vanished, replaced by a mask of disbelief and panic. She stood frozen, eyes wide, lips trembling. When the video ended, the silence was deafening. I looked at her, calm but resolute. "I thought we had trust," I said, "but I was wrong. You betrayed me, not just me, but all of us here." Her defenses crumbled. Tears streamed down her face as she stammered. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." But the damage was done. Emily's family looked away, ashamed. Friends whispered quietly, some avoiding her gaze. The man in the video wasn't there, but his presence hung heavily in the room like a dark cloud. I had made my point. The truth was out. After a moment, I announced, "I've filed for divorce. I'm taking back what's mine and moving on." She tried to speak again, pleading for understanding, but I shook my head. "No more lies," I said firmly. "It's over." The aftermath was brutal. Emily left the reunion early, her face a mix of sorrow and anger. Her phone didn't stop ringing, but no one answered. I could see the isolation settling around her like a thick fog. For me, the feeling was complicated. I wasn't happy. Revenge isn't about happiness. But there was a sense of relief, of closure. I had taken back my power. In the days that followed, Emily moved out. Our shared home, once filled with memories, felt cold and empty. I changed the locks and disconnected utilities under her name. The joint bank accounts were closed, and I secured a fair financial settlement through the lawyer. Friends who once stayed silent now reached out, offering support. Many expressed shock and sympathy, saying they never suspected a thing. Some distanced themselves from Emily, unwilling to take sides. I spent nights alone, reflecting on everything. The love we shared, the lies she told, the life we built that crumbled in silence. I knew I would carry the scars of this betrayal forever, but I also knew I was stronger for having faced it. Revenge had been a means to an end, not destruction, but redemption. And as I packed my things to move into my new place, I felt, for the first time in months, a flicker of hope. The dust had settled, but the wounds were still raw. Emily was gone from my life. Moved out, stripped from my daily reality. yet her betrayal lingered in every quiet corner of the house we once shared. It was strange how a place filled with so many memories could feel so empty, so cold. Friends and family who had once viewed us as a perfect couple now spoke in hushed tones when my name came up. Some expressed sympathy. Others offered judgment. I learned that people tend to pick sides quickly in situations like this. But I didn't care. What mattered was reclaiming my life and my peace of mind. The divorce was finalized a few months later. It was amicable, surprisingly so, considering the mess of emotions involved. The lawyer made sure the settlement was fair, protecting my financial interests. It wasn't about money. I had more than enough to start fresh, but about respect and security. What I didn't expect was the sense of freedom that came with the final signature. The end of that chapter, messy and painful as it was, felt like a release. For the first time in years, I was no longer living under a shadow of doubt, lies, and heartbreak. But healing wasn't instant. There were days when the pain crept back in, when I caught myself staring at my phone, hoping for a message that would never come. Nights when the silence in the house was deafening. Moments when memories of better times haunted me like ghosts. I sought therapy. Talking to someone who didn't judge, who listened without interruption, helped me process the betrayal and the complex feelings that followed. I learned to separate Emily's actions from my worth, to understand that her cheating was a reflection of her choices, not my failures. Slowly, I started rebuilding not just my home, but my sense of self. I took up old hobbies I'd neglected, spent more time with friends who lifted me up, and focused on my career with renewed passion. I rediscovered the man I was before the pain, and even glimpsed the man I wanted to become. One evening, months after everything had fallen apart, I found myself smiling genuinely while out with friends. It wasn't for a smile or one hiding sadness. It was real. Hope was returning. I realized that sometimes the worst betrayals teach you the strongest lessons. Trust is precious, but it must be earned and maintained. Love is beautiful, but it shouldn't come at the cost of your dignity. And most importantly, self-respect is something no one can take away unless you give it to them. As for Emily, I don't hate her. That would only weigh me down. Instead, I wish her the clarity to understand the pain she caused and the courage to face her own mistakes. My story isn't just about catching her cheating or the revenge I took. It's about survival, about rising from betrayal stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever comes next. And now, as I close this painful chapter, I look forward with cautious optimism, knowing that my best days are still ahead.